to Get Celebritized. I'm your host, Aurea McGarry, and I'm so excited to bring you this episode where I try to bring on the best of the best people to introduce you to help you learn how to earn more so you can live more, live a big, vivacious, juicy legacy life, and so you can give back more. So today I have a very special guest, a dear friend of mine, the queen of pitch, the most amazing woman that you will ever have the honor and privilege to meet and hear from, because not only is she a huge star, she's got the biggest heart of any woman I've ever met. Let me bring you up, my dear friend, Dr. Forbes Riley. Get up here, Dr. Forbes Riley.
A wonderful introduction. Thank you. Thank you. And such a love you are. Don't mind us. We're just going to girl fan each other.
We are. That's the best part. That's the best part. And Forbes, you're not just a celebrity. You are such a great friend. You care about people so much, and you are really at the top of your game, doing movies and TV and QVC so much. But I want the viewers and listeners to get to know you first before I rave about you a little more, because I want them to really hear about how you navigate success and how you've passed that on to your amazing daughter McKenna as well. So
and her twin brother. Please don't let me forget him.
Yes, and her twin brother, of course. It's
Riker. Like Star Trek. Yes, I'm a little bit of a geek. I know I don't look it, but trust me, at deep at heart, I'm quite the geek.
I love that.
And why not? You know, what's really fun about Aurea and I is that we met at the very beginning of my speaking career. I've been an actress since I came out of the womb. I was in my first television show at 16 and on Broadway by the time I was 20. Yet none of this was easy. I know it all sounds really glamorous on paper when I say it that way, because I'm also turning 64 years old.
You're not.
I know, right? That's the best thing that I've done, is that I think I got an extra 20 years out of this life because I'm going out kicking and screaming. I'm not giving up at all. And I will tell you, I think I can share my screen, because I do a couple of things that people don't quite understand. And they're like, wait a second, you've obviously always been glamorous and gorgeous. I'm like, don't I wish that life were that easy?
You want me to share the screen?
I think I can do that right there. Isn't that funny how this works?
Oh, well, look at that. It's my first time doing that.
Well, there you go. Well, because I tell this little piece of my story and people don't really believe it. It's like, all right, so there I am with my beautiful dad, who was an inventor and a dreamer and a magician. I do magic tricks because of my dad. And I was very cute at a certain age, but then I looked at my mouth, and my parents realized this when I was in kindergarten. I finally went to school and they're like, what is wrong with her mouth? Now, my mom, Aurea, I don't know if you know this, was a bit of a hoarder. She kept my tooth impression from 1968.
Oh my God.
Right. We take this out every Halloween to scare the kids. Those are my teeth as a child. I had a very...
I never knew the story.
I know, right? It's one of my least favorite stories. The fact that I still have this. My mother kept all my baby teeth. I mean, I'm not quite sure to what end, but that's who she was. They put me in braces when I was 8 years old. Now, Aurea, you know, as a very pretty little girl, how important it is to be pretty when you're little, because if you're not, you're definitely an outcast.
Yeah, and then awkward stage too.
Right? Well, awkward is one thing, but then they put this in my mouth. And for 2 years, I talked like this. Mm-hmm. So nobody wanted to be my friend because nobody could understand what I was saying. And I have to tell you, it's devastating to do this to a kid. It's why I can't stop talking. And I'm all about communication, because for 2 years of my life in very formidable age, I could not communicate. People did not want to be my friend. They were going, what? And then if that wasn't bad enough, I got hit in the face with a baseball bat. I had a big broken nose. I was overweight. Fast food came out when I was a kid. I had big frizzy black hair. Frizzy was a word I hate. And all of this was going on. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, my girl, my dad, who was he created those printing presses. He slipped one day and he cut the front of his hand off. That was a crappy phone call. And my beautiful dad, the hero of my life, would spend the next 3 years of his life in the hospital. And that's where we went every night for dinner. We'd bring him dinner. And, you know, you can feel bad about the bad things that happened to you. And I know that you've been through some crazy tragedies too. And it's not just what's on the refrigerator magnet, but life happens for you, not to you. Now watch this. My mother turns to me and says, kiddo, we have no money for college, which is the only thing I was smart. I just wanted to go to school. We were broke. And she said, but there's this beauty pageant that's coming to town. She looked at my face. This is almost 40 years ago, and was like, well, that's not going to work. She didn't mean to be mean. And this is a funny thing as a parent. You don't realize sometimes when you say it, it can be truthful, but it hurts so bad. Like, I now know that my mom, the woman I looked up to, also thought that I wasn't pretty enough to be in a beauty pageant. But the funny thing was my dad's doctor overheard this. And Aurea, he turned to me and my mom and said, I'm going to fix your daughter's nose. Now, that doesn't seem like a big deal, right? Especially in the age of plastic surgery. But back in 1975, this was like paramount. Yeah. And he wasn't going to charge us for it. So I go to bed looking like this. And then a couple of days later, I look in the mirror and this very attractive little girl looks back at me. Aww. Do you see how they don't really look even like each other? And I looked at her face and thought, I think with that face, I could win a beauty pageant. And I know this sounds crazy. I was 15. And my dad drove me to where there's 500 girls all auditioning for this beauty pageant. And I remember holding his good hand. His bad hand was all wrapped up in a giant bandage. And I said, maybe I said it to myself, but I said, one of these girls is going to Tulsa, Oklahoma to be with Bob Hope on NBC. And it's going to be me. Now, that's a bizarre statement. I'd never won anything like that. Certainly like least likely to do anything in school. And I got a hand-me-down bridesmaid's dress. And there I am as they announced my name, put the medal around my neck, and against all the cute little blonde girls and all the people who made fun of me my entire freaking life, I won. And I got to tell you, I ended up going to the Nationals in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the funny thing there, Aurea, be careful what you wish for. I get there, and there's Bob Hope, and there I am with my cute big cheeks and my hand-me-down bridesmaid's dress. But the funny thing is, Aurea, that was one of the worst weeks of my life.
Really?
I was a fish out of water. I had very little table manners. My parents, apparently, we eat more with our hands in our culture. And I'm talking like this. And they're like, y'all have the funniest accent I ever heard. And I'm like, what the freak you talking about? I said, well, I don't have an accent. What's wrong with these people? Why are they all so prissy? It was a nightmare. Okay, let's get real about what happened here. And there were other reasons that they just didn't like me. I have a different religion than the people in the Midwest, and. But you know what I learned from that, my girl? What? It's to stand up for myself, to not judge people by the cover or the color of their skin, their eyes, their hair, just to take people for what they're worth. And the crazy thing is I got a scholarship to go to college, and there I am with my mom, who was 260 pounds my whole life. That woman loved me more than anything, but I got to tell you, I looked at her. I am about 20 years older than she was in that photo. I still wear the same clothes I wore in high school. I looked at her and very consciously said, I'm not going to be you. I'm going to be what I saw in the movies and television. And I created Forbes Riley. And I say this not to impress you guys, but to impress upon you that you have the ability to craft and create the you that you want to be. And we can go back to, I just wanted to show that because I think it's so important to.
Where'd you go? Yeah.
To let people know that what you're seeing is an evolution. I think it's great. People go, oh, my Forbes, it was probably so easy for you. First of all, it's not easy for any of us. Mm-hmm. The reason that Aurea and I are here is because of what we've gone through. And you know that better than anyone else. The fact that we're still here, it's dedication, consistency, and perseverance, right?
And Forbes, what I love about your story, and thank you for sharing that. I didn't know all of that. I've heard bits and pieces, but I've never seen it in pictures like that before. And I don't know what made you show it, but thank you for doing that because it's not bragging, it's being inspiring. Because you should see the post I did today where I quoted from the Barbie movie, America Ferrera. She was up for the best supporting actress. We all know that monologue. I put the script, that monologue in my post today because if that doesn't talk to us women, like we have to be thin enough, but not too thin, not be able to, run with the boys, but not degrade the girls and be girlfriends and this, all the stuff we are supposed to be. And you just in this little slideshow from where you went to just that beautiful picture, you were beautiful in Forbes Riley all the time with even before the nose, you were always the beautiful Forbes Riley inside yourself, but your growth to say, I'm going to make a difference in this world and I'm going to build a brand. And you have used this for some amazing, great purposes. Tell us a little bit about that. Now that you've done this, you've done some incredible things with this. And none of it was self-serving. It was all you've made this world a better place. And you've really inspired women and myself that we can be anything we want to be despite our circumstances.
I just realized early on that you don't get handed things. Mm-hmm. And I also looked at my parents, who I loved very much, but they didn't travel. They didn't see the world. And I grew up with movies and television. And many of you did maybe as well. But those were my friends. Somebody asked me recently in an interview, who was your mentor? And I'm like, Audrey Hepburn, Katharine Hepburn, Steven Spielberg, Mel Gibson. I could go down the list of my friends.
Carrie, Oprah.
Jane Fonda. These were my friends. And I know that sounds crazy, but there is no other human who took me under their wing and helped me become who I am. There were moments of glimmers along the way. I had an image consultant for 1 hour, one meeting, who helped me change my name and evolve into Forbes Riley instead of Francine Forbes. Okay. But I didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't invest in mentors. I was very shy, but I was also very bold. And so I weathered the storm on my own. And I didn't have a choice back. There was no social media. You want to talk about the loneliest time in history, right before social media hit, where you were literally alone. You know, you had to grab a phone or go to a phone booth to connect to anybody. But I had these visions of what life could be. And so there I am pursuing a career in New York City. And I'm always railed against what doesn't make sense to me. I just watched a video where literally a cop is arresting a fireman on the side of a road because his truck was in the wrong, but it doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, and I've always stood up for the little guy. Well, at some point I was the little girl. I remember as an actress, I got chased around hotel rooms. I literally remember going to a lunch with an agent that I wanted very badly. Obviously, he had a different agenda than I did. And he invited me to lunch at a hotel, and I thought it was downstairs. It wasn't. It was in his room. And I'm so naive, I didn't think about it. I go up to his room, and he's a short little guy. And I'm like, there's the lunch. And I'm like, all right, I guess we'll eat up here. Next thing I know, he's chasing me around the bed. And I'm like, you little twerp. I mean,
if anything had happened to you, Forbes, it would have been your fault because you should have known better, which is what really gets me upset.
Well, don't even get me started about that.
I was naive too.
But I had no idea. I was that naive. Who does that to another person? Anyway, at some point, Aurea, I decided I got no one's permission to do this. I opened a company called CMA for Artists. I was 25, Creative Management for Artists. I hired a woman named Lindsay Maxwell. She was British, and she represented me. She sounded a little bit like this. Now, the thing about Lindsay Maxwell is I was her. I was the one answering the phones. I was the one sending out the pictures. I was the one negotiating for Forbes Riley. Want to talk about imposter syndrome? I was an imposter. 100% for 3 years. I booked movies, television, commercials for my one and only star client. It was brilliant.
Wow.
Until one day somebody was on the phone with me and it's like, is this Forbes? I'm like, what are you doing? And that was the end of it. I literally got caught. I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. But I didn't have a choice.
Deny. Dude, I don't know what you're talking about.
All I know
leave a message.
Right. It was my career and I was going to make this work and I couldn't, and I did. Now there's things I could have done bigger and better and more interesting, but I will. And then I wanted, it's funny. I wanted to see how rich people lived. That was one of my goals. And I don't know how other people live their lives. I think now it must be tough with social media and comparing yourself. The only thing I had to compare, in my hometown, we had a very, very tiny little house. And when my dad was in the hospital, his hospital room overlooked the only mansion in my town. And I was very aware of this because I grew up wanting to be James Bond. That was another one of my role models. I set out very early on and said, I want that life. I want to scuba dive and snow ski and wear awesome clothes and drive cool cars and go to Monaco. That's what I wanted. Now, the funny thing is, the irony of this story is that I was manifesting before it was a thing. Because I did all those things. I have traveled to Monaco and I've been on speedboats and I've been scuba diving down to 120 feet and I did all that. I've even done espionage, just so you know. I can't talk about some of that, but I did all of these things undercover because I thought this is what I wanted. Who knew? As I'm putting it together of what manifesting means. I'm sure when you looked at people on television, you're like, I want to be like that.
I want to be Dr. Doolittle.
Right. But the funny thing is when you say that to yourself and you picture it, I started my whole speaking career. I've been an actress. Lily Tomlin let me do her one-woman show. I've been on Broadway. I'm good at other people's words.
Right.
But one day I watch Les Brown and Marianne Williamson and a couple other big speakers, and I thought, that looks really good. That looks fun. I would love to do that, but I have nothing to talk about. So I don't know what I would say, but it looks like fun. That was really the thought in my head. And then I took a picture of one of the speakers in front of a whole audience, and I thought, what would it be like to stand up? And this is, by the way, I'm teaching a manifestation speaker class starting today, ironically enough.
Oh my God, you're the best person to do that too. Good for you.
Well, I am because I'm teaching it from an actor perspective. So we're working on voice and range and stage presence and improv and things that most people today, it's not just business teaching. And so I said, I want those photos. Well, I'll tell you what, in my teaching today, I have a lot of those photos. I have me standing on stage at Grant Cardone's 10X speaking to 10,000 people, my story. Now, how did I do all this? Either I'm a freaking genius or I just keyed into the manifestation concept. So I say this to everyone listening. All you need to do is create a clear direction. It's not even about finding your purpose. You don't have to find your purpose. Your purpose kind of finds you. Do a lot of different things. Write a book if you want. And nowadays you can do that with the help of a chat GPT, and there's lots of self-publishers, or create a YouTube channel and be your own television host if you want to. There's so many opportunities that some people have a little analysis paralysis. Here's my advice. Don't be the person who walks up to the buffet and has 5 different forks. Because here, can you get it close to my face? This is what that looks like. It looks like, I want the fork here, I'm going to fork here. You can't put every fork in your mouth. I don't care if you want the brownies and the salad and the steak. One food at a time, and be polite and do one bite. And Aurea, you probably more than anyone else knows, do one thing, get good at it, and move on to the next thing. You just can't do them all at the same time. But as somebody who's done a lot of things, from hosting my own dog game show to starting the X Games to doing home shopping, I don't ever have a job. I have a plethora of jobs, of careers, of a life.
You really do, Forbes. Now, you have accomplished so much, and you do have the best mindset. You've been through stuff. You've manifested what you wanted. You knew how to dream and say, that's what I want. Talk to the other ladies right now that are there, but they don't know how to grasp it. What is that moment and the tools you can tell the ladies that helps you grasp it and take hold of it, when right now they might be wishing and dreaming, but they don't know how to connect the dots to a wish and a dream to actually steps forward to making it reality like you have done?
It really helps that I didn't have friends growing up. I don't have family either. My parents are gone. I have no aunts or uncles. My mom was an only child. My dad's brother died years ago. I have nobody in my life except my children and my husband who are related to me. And so I don't listen to anybody. I'm going to tell you, I think a big issue with a lot of the women that I've talked to is you have a lot of friends and they all say, oh, you can't do that, or who are you doing, or what's your husband doing? I don't have that. I remember thinking when I was doing my first wedding that I didn't have to worry about all the people telling me what to do. I did some crazy shit at my wedding because I could use whatever my imagination said. So you, as the dreamer, must get very clear on what you want, whatever that is. Pick something that you want. If you want to start this business, if you want to make a network marketing successful, if you want to run a training, I don't care what it is, pick one. And then one of the ways is to work it backwards. I call it, as a magician, you begin with the end in mind. What is it that you want to do? You want to make this many sales with this product. You want to have this kind of a house. Doesn't matter what you choose. And then work it backwards. How many of something do you need to sell? Who do you get to become? Now, a couple of little secrets. Don't let your past write your future.
Oh, that's good.
That's the first big one.
Yeah.
We can all talk about, I did this last night in one of my trainings. In the middle of a business training, Aurea, this woman burst out crying about who hurt her when she was younger and how she stopped at that part of her life. If you're a beautiful woman, odds are somebody touched you inappropriately. Guess what? Even if you're not a beautiful woman inside or out, even if you're a man, people have touched you. I have now come to understand that the majority of people, and it happens in the shadows, you don't even know about it. It could be a brother, an uncle, a boy. In my case, it was a high school boyfriend, a shop owner, get this, and a guy who my dad set me up with on a date. It's horrible. I blamed my dad for years.
Wow.
It's kind of silly. But men are men, women are women. People do this to each other. At a certain age, too, sexuality runs rampant. And if we were in the animal kingdom, we'd all be able to figure this out, but we're not. And so I will tell women, now that I've heard every conceivable rape story, including one of my dear students who said to me at 54, she's never been kissed. And I looked at her, I'm like, excuse me? She said, yeah, I can't kiss anybody because I don't know where it will go. I'm like, what? Well, she'd been molested a little bit when she was younger, really young, about 5 years old. But at 12, her next door neighbor groomed her, had a satanical ritual in his home, and all night long had 12 guys rape her.
Oh my God.
The last one said, whenever you have sex, you'll think of me.
Oh my God.
I've never heard of anything quite so horrible. Aurea, I don't know if you know, but I do a breakthrough healing training.
You do. I have to say, your trainings are all amazing and even deeper than I ever thought any coach ever went. You really do have a gift for that.
Well, I will say to you, if you're listening to this, and I've never done this publicly, and I wouldn't do it except on a show like Aurea's, if you find yourself stuck because of something that happened to you that you'd like to let go of, please go to ForbesRiley.com and reach out to me. Mm-hmm. I have a gift. By the way, the woman we're talking about, let's just call her S. She was at my house when she revealed this. I did my procedure thing on her, which took about a half hour. And she turned to me and said, and I quote, "I want you to come dance at my wedding, Forbes. I'm ready."
Oh, God, I got goosebumps.
We all did. We all did. That's probably the biggest transition I've ever had. But I am very tired and I'm very committed in my life and my mission to stop people suffering in silence.
Amen.
Because it's almost everyone. So please don't feel bad about it. It's not about you. What you have control over is what you choose to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to hold on to that because the person who hurt you isn't even thinking about you anymore. So, and it doesn't have to be that severe. I mean, I had a girl,
Right.
we worked with a girl, Aurea, who's 7 years old. She stood up to give a speech. The teacher insulted her. Somebody made fun of her. She peed all over herself. Didn't want to speak in public ever again. She's now one of my biggest money earners.
Wow.
Because don't let your past write your future.
You know, Will, on that note, Forbes, as we're talking about these little girls and what's happened in the past, you have done a phenomenal job raising your twins. You have a boy and a girl, amazing successes. And I think about McKenna especially because your daughter is in business with you. And I love, she is just such an inspiration, such a powerhouse. And I love when she talks about, because all of us that have had teenage girls, especially, you know, she was saying there was a time she didn't even like you. We're like, oh, good, yours too. You know, when you think about, there's a moment where, oh my gosh, they're teenagers and they're girls. Will we get through this? And we do. And you have helped her, motivate her, inspired her, because you have turn out to be not just an amazing young woman, but an incredible, vivacious business owner and millionaire at the time she was 21. Talk to us as moms on that journey of now taking all this wonderful life that you've had, the good and the bad and the ugly, and now raising these two great kids and McKenna being in business with you now. Let's give some moms some hope for their kids.
Let me see if I can summarize this really quickly. Number one, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It would really be nice if you're a mom right now with kids under 5 or 6 that I could tell you some great tricks, like the count to 10 game or the I want game. I really trained. I was 42 when I had my kids. And as a daughter of a magician and an inventor, I had these theories on how to raise kids. And some of those were really, really helpful tools. It's the same way I teach pitching. I've got some serious principles when it comes to pitching. And one of them is stop telling people what they need. Get them to want what you have.
Oh, that's good.
That means stop telling people what they need. So when you meet somebody who's got a new skincare, oh man, you need this for your wrinkles. And you hear that word need. None of us buy what we need. But if you can get someone to want what you have and say, look, I got to tell you, the skin cream that I've got, I may be 65, but people tell me I look 45. You want to look 20 years younger? All of a sudden you have a want now. That want is that's how I teach people to pitch. That's how I've grossed $2.5 billion. I didn't sell anything. I don't like selling. I just get you to want the stuff I have. If you want sexy arms, I got a fitness product that'll work in 5 minutes a day. You want to know what it is? Reach out to me. Yeah. That's all I say. I don't sell it. And it's the craziest way to be. And the problem is instinctually, I think humans are designed to want to tell everything. Well, but it does this and it's that. And stop talking. Write this one down. Less words, more impact. We as women over talk. We over push. We make our point, then we remake our point, then we point our point again. You ever heard a woman who's complained about the same thing like 18 times in one? You're like, let it go. Stop. I heard the words. We out talk men. Okay. So having said that, my son calls me the other day from college and he's like, Mom, I want to thank you. I'm like, for what? He's like, you're a great mom. I'm like, I know, but why are you saying this? He said,
what do you want?
Well, no, he said it because he was making a point. He said, Mom, remember that you taught me you didn't punish us. And I'm like, yeah, I get a lot of flack for that. I made them punish themselves, Aurea. So here's the deal. My theory back then was I want to be liked. You did something wrong. You spilled it. You lied about it. You did whatever. And I'm supposed to be the punisher. This sucks. No. I'm not the bad guy. You tell me the punishment that you deserve. You want me to take your phone away? I'll take your phone all weekend. I'll take your phone away all weekend. You can't have your phone all weekend. You know what that does? It allows you, when you become an adult, to understand consequences. So he's in college with all these kids who are running amok, waiting for someone to punish them. He's like, Mom, I don't go out on Friday nights. I don't drink. I don't need to. I did some of that. I don't want the consequences. And I'm like, really? That little theory worked.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, where were you 40 years ago? That's a good one.
Well, I really do, and it's not a joke, Aurea, that I would love to write this parenting book. As I've had this conversation many times, I've got these crazy philosophies. The other one is I was a dancer, Broadway dancer, loved performing and acting, and I thought, oh, I got the cutest little boy and girl. Oh, they're going to be little rock stars. I put them in dance class, and there they have the leotards and the tap shoes, and they sucked. No, you don't understand. I'm a professional dancer. I'm watching these two little bundleballs going, we got to leave before somebody, I'm embarrassed right now. They're like, who are those kids? I'm like, I think they're mine. And I literally took them out.
Kids, aisle 12.
I know and I took them out of class. And for a little while, I was heartsick. I'm like, they're never going to be dancers or actors. They don't like doing any of that. Well, here's the funny thing. That's me when I was in my 20s. By the time they were old enough to know who I was already 50 and I was a businesswoman. And so you met my daughter. She hung out with me at the very first speech that I gave at Your Live Your Legacy. My daughter was there.
Yes, she was.
You know why? Remember I said I had no friends, so I created my own?
Yeah, make your own.
Ironic. My little girl was my best friend, and she would travel with me. And I loved being, I can't express to you how much I love this. And I poured all of this time and attention into, Riker didn't like to travel as much, so he spent more time with his dad while I traveled with her. But one year, she was about 10 years old. She missed 50 days of school. We had to take her to private school because, as my father always said, don't let school get in the way of a good education.
I love it.
And she learned, and she met you. She met Les Brown. She met Kevin Harrington. She met the greats. She watched me on stage. She's been on stage with me at a couple of my events. You'll see her in the videotape. I brought her on stage, awkward as she felt, and made her say a few words. Wonder why she's such a good speaker now? Because she doesn't think anything of it. Believe me, my mom embarrassed me so much. Nothing embarrasses me is what she says. And
I love her.
I love her too. And I also have to give some credit that I can't take the credit for how she is. When she was about 6 or 7 years old, she used to come backstage to Home Shopping with me. Like, I'm not joking that she was my best friend.
She still is.
Well, yes, she's definitely more than my best friend now. She is my mentor. She does things that I wish I could have done because she doesn't have my painful history. Her history, knock on wood, is a lot more sane and structured. And I protected her more than my parents realized they needed to protect me.
Right.
So that's okay. You know, you live and you learn. And I'm grateful because sometimes things happen and you can't help it. But she used to be in the back. She would come to me with her little notepad and go, Mom, you didn't smile enough when you did that. Your models were kind of distracted. And I don't think your host really should say this thing that she said. And I'm like, I didn't really take it to heart. I looked, I was like, that's really good. All right. What was formulating in her head is she became this amazing producer. She started seeing a bigger picture and she cared to do that. Not every kid does. You cannot force your kid to be, oh, well, I wish my daughter was like McKenna. No, you don't. Your kids just find who they are. Mm-hmm. But entrepreneurialism was important to me. Mm-hmm. And she didn't have to do this. So did I get lucky? Yeah. But you got to remember, I kind of paid my dues. I didn't have any other girlfriends growing up. Mm-hmm. And it was fascinating to have this girl in my life. But just so you know, there's nothing wrong with you. At 12, and you know this, she woke up one day, looked at me and was like, who are you and what have you done for me lately? I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Excuse me?
It's a little bit of hormones. She's like, yeah. Why should I like you? I know you're my mom, but what? I'm like, stop. And she's like,
she was normal, which is good to know. She's normal because she's such a phenomenon.
Don't touch me was the one. I'm like, don't what? Get over here. Not no. So anyway, the point is you do have to invest time in your kids though. I will tell you, one of the problems in today's society is that we're all working so hard to be noticed, to keep up with the Joneses, to make money, to stay our head above water, that for a lot of parents, it's not possible to spend quality time with your kids. Mm-hmm. But the next thing is when you have that opportunity, you got an asset here. The difference between what I did and other moms that I've noticed is go play with, go over there, go, yeah, that's my kid. We can't stop everybody. I didn't do that. I'd be on a Zoom call, or I'd be wherever, and I'd like, come here, come sit with me, come sit right on my lap. Let's see, this is what we're doing. You participate. I made it be fun to be with mom and be in that world, as fun as it might be. And it worked.
It really does. My
Yeah.
girl was the same way. They came with me for everything. For a while, I was a single mom, and my daughter now, who's the adult, she's in her 30s, remembers helping me set up when I used to do Mary Kay, and she'd sit there and watch me do my classes, and she'd be with me. And my younger one now has come with me to all these things. She met your daughter. They were sitting at the table together. Little Alyssa, we're both there. So they come to everything because I'm like you. I believe they do what we do, not what we say. And whatever, even if they don't do the career we do, they learn how we run our lives, how we run our business, our integrity, how we treat people, and they can take that into any career they want to do. And I've always thought that was so important. Sure, watch me work, watch me do what I do, meet my friends. I love that my daughters were always at every single one of my summits, my Living Legacy summits. And when Alyssa was 6 years old, she goes, how do I help the charities? I want to do something to help your charities. And she started painting rocks and came up with My Charity Rocks and raised $1,000 at 6 years old because she said, how can I help? And I let her say, well, how do you want to help? So I just love this. And your daughter's become so incredible because she got to hang with you. And I'm so glad she's normal and had those little tween years where it's like they didn't want to and don't hug me. I think that's just normal. And then they come back around.
And, she's she's definitely amazing for me. She loves to surf. She loves to dance. She travels on her own. She and Riker went off to Croatia and Greece with me, and then they went on their own. They just came back from Belize and climbing a volcano. She has something that I didn't have and still don't. She has a much better work-play balance than I do. And that is something certainly to be commended, and a bit more organized than I am. So I'm, in fact, learned a lot by being around her and the concept of technology. One of the things I'm going to share with all my moms out there is you cannot let the years slip by. Technology is here to stay. My dad, God rest his soul, when he was 60-something years old, email had just come out, and it was that when you were typing in that little cursor thing would pop back like a little Pac-Man.
Yes,
And he was like, yeah, this will never take off. This is stupid. And he might have been right, but he wasn't. And so fighting technology is not your job. Embracing it, learning it. I could do Canva as a career because I love this now that AI and all the backgrounds are coming out on it's a fascinating
Zoom
time.
and everything. The pandemic kind of threw us all into technology. Everybody had to get good at going online. It was like not optional. Like eventually everybody had to have a website. I remember businesses would fight that I don't need a website. Now, if you don't have a website, you're not in business.
Right.
Now, if you can't go on Zoom, you're also not expanding your business because now we have clients all over the world. I know you and I do because of the pandemic and Zoom and now being able to be at second nature. I can take a client in Australia now and in the UK, and I do. When before it was whoever could get to me in Atlanta to my summit. Now it's the world.
It's beautiful. I would advise everyone to embrace it. Fall in love with social media because it's here to stay. Just don't make yourself nuts. There is something about staying true to who you are, your integrity. I'm going to advise you, though, of what I do. And I know in terms of celebritizing, what Aurea does is crucial because you are your personal brand today. It's how come George Clooney can make $1 billion selling alcohol, as Kim Kardashian can sell anything that she wants because it's the personal brand thing. But in order to learn how to pitch, to verbally communicate with another human being, to get them to take an action is my specialty. I don't do a lot of other things. I do this, and I've pitched 195 infomercials over, thousands of companies to change their marketing and messaging and their sales teams. And now I love focusing on you, literally taking you. One of the big questions I ask, and I don't know if I've done this with Aurea yet, is I ask you this question that you're going to hear at a networking event all the time. What do you do? So, Aurea, if I asked you, what would you say?
I love you do this. You always put us on the spot. I'm a television show host and podcaster, and I help other entrepreneurs do the same thing to market their business and stop being the best kept secret in their industry.
You know what's so funny about that? I loved it in the beginning, but you see how she just talked a little bit and kind of waned at the very end? I don't know where we all learned how to say all of these things. Can I coach you?
Please do.
But I'm not coaching you for your sake, but for everyone else's.
My sake,
Take
please.
the I. Now, listen to this, guys. Take the I and change it to as. Instead of I am a blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I'm
start the word with as someone who has, and see what it does to you. Go for it.
As someone who is a television show host and podcaster, I help others do the same thing.
Yes. If you just stop there, that's really cool.
Okay.
But I would also go one step deeper because that is a little aspirational, And I don't know if I want to be a television host. So I don't know. I would say I coach others to celebritize their business to monetize it better. Now I go, oh, that's why I would want some celebrity. That's what the word celebritize means, is to create your credibility and exposure. Mm-hmm. So you might want to define the word credibility. I mean, celebritize, because
right.
Some people go, I don't want to be a celebrity. No. Yes, you do. Let me explain what that is. And in that same sentence. So, but you also, I think, as someone who's overcome adversity, a massive health challenge, and is here to tell you, you can overcome it. I now thrive. Oh, wow. If you were to say that, you stop the room for a second. And are you allowed to, when somebody says, what do you do? Stop the room for a second? You are. Mm-hmm. This is the crazy thing. You don't have to just say what you do. It sounded like that was the question. But the real question that everyone's asking is not what you do, but what can you do for me? What can you do for the person? So it's like, wow. So Aurea, you look so perfect and beautiful that someone might be intimidated by, and you're a television celebrity. But as somebody who's come over, who's gone past a life-threatening health challenge to thrive in the business of television, it may not be the right order, but it's like, wow, she survived what? Now I can't not listen to you. Now it's not about you, but it's about, this is a person to be reckoned with. And you did it in less than a sentence. And so when I ask somebody, what do you do? And they're like, I'm retired. I'm like, why? Retired from what? Why do I need to know about you? Well, rather than say I'm retired, if you said, as someone who spent her life being the principal of an elementary school, I have an ability to herd cats, but also to listen to the smallest of situations. And today in my coaching business, I help women thrive, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, now I know what you do and why you do it. The why you do it. If you could infuse like a sentence of a why.
That's good.
Oh my gosh, people just love you. And you don't always
do that for them anyway. They don't care how much until they know how much you care.
That's true. That's true. And how do you make yourself ingratiated to them? I walk in people like, oh, she's the $2.5 billion host. It's like, you know what? As someone who raised a little boy who was murdered, I feel more than most people do when I see headlines and tragedies in the news, because my family was there.
Yeah.
Today I help others, blah, 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 blah. Now I don't always use that intro.
Right. It depends where you are. It depends on the audience. You feel out the room, where you're going to be and who you're talking to.
That's pitching. Did you hear what you just said? That's one of the principles I live by. It's called assumptions. Not every time you introduce yourself or answer that question, you're going to read off a billboard. I help people and women, to live a better life, because that's what you sound like most of the time. Mm-hmm. So when I'm working with just Aurea and I'm talking to one woman, I'm not. I know that we are listened to by women and men around the world right now. I know that you're going to hear these words. And so I'm not talking about me. My goal is to inspire you to go, gosh, I could work on my pitch. I could work on my celebrity status. I could work with both of these ladies. I could be on a summit with, that's where I want your brain to go. Mm-hmm. I know who I am. She knows who she is. Our goal now, by spending time here, that, by the way, we're not getting paid for. So what is the compensation? The compensation is that a rising tide lifts all boats. If you are happier and your kids get raised happier and your relationship is wonderful, then you don't cut me off on the road and give me the finger because you're having a really bad day.
Yeah.
Or you can afford to go on a vacation, which makes you nicer. I have this altruistic view of what the world can be.
Me too.
I really do. I don't want to give up on all of us.
No, and you won't, and we won't. And, like-minded people, we stick together and we attract each other, which is so cool. We're in each other's world. And once we're in it, we never leave. It's like you've been in my world for so long. And so many of the other speakers I've had on my stages are long gone. I mean, they're in my peripheral vision. I see them now and then on social media, but you and I really connected because we have that similar, we do want to make a difference. And I know that the TEDx stage will have you someday soon, because they need you and the world needs you to share an idea, because you are brilliant. The way you think is so different. Just this whole conversation, I will be watching this back in replay and taking notes from everything you just said as well, because really good points you've made that really need to be absorbed better and put into action. And I was so impressed, Forbes, when I did your red carpet interviews just a couple of weeks ago at your awards show, because every single client that you had that were winning these wonderful awards, they had such confidence. And by the time I got to 3 or 4, I felt the theme going, these aren't these normal people just coming in. I do, and I'm this. They came to me on this red carpet. They were sharp. They were on time. They said, I am known as, they knew their position. I'm like, these people have been trained by Forbes Riley, and it is an essence, and your legacy is spilling out all over them. And I'm just so proud of you, and I know you're so proud of them as well, because you really do it to pour into their lives, and they've got it. They got the memo. They were some of the best people I've ever had the privilege of interviewing and talking to, and it just was Forbes all over them.
Well, thank you for that. And you have a role in all of this, because your speech is one of the first that I ever gave, called Live Your Legacy, and I didn't understand what legacy was 20 years ago. It just didn't quite click and make sense to me. I now understand that legacy is about serving other people. If you want to be remembered, make a difference in their lives. Mm-hmm. And so for the last few years of my life, I have really doubled down on teaching people some of the principles that I've lived by. I got mugged in the early 80s. Now that's horrible, right? Well, no, I ended up in a dojo and I ended up studying martial arts for 30 years of my life. And a month ago, I ended up starring in a martial arts feature film.
Yes,
go figure how 30 years ago that would inform my career and what I love to do.
Making lemonade.
But one of the things that I've learned by being in the martial arts world is how you listen, how you pay attention. I was just thinking this yesterday because I'm about to give a huge speech to mostly men. And I said, you come to this when you're a martial artist and you bow to your mentor. You bow to a person who knows more than you, not because you're not brilliant and already a black belt, but you bow out of reverence, out of respect. We don't teach respect anymore. And that is one of the things that I instill. I was taught by ESPN when I helped create the X Games. If you're not 15 minutes early to work, you're late. Mm-hmm. So I see people now, it's like chop, chop. It's not a joke. And so, it's funny when I said earlier that my son didn't get punished, there were massive rules, ground rules that I set up and established, from integrity to lying to helping others to opening the door to being of service, that my children exhibit back to me and to others. And one of the greatest examples, you just said it. It used to be when my kids were little, I used to love when other parents would go, wow, your kids are such a treat to have over for dinner. You just said that about my students, Aurea, and I want to thank you for noticing. Those are my disciples, my students, my legacy, if you will, by coming to trainings, by sitting and working the way that we work. We're diligent, we're committed, and we live in a world where mediocre is good enough.
Yeah.
Oh, what if it wasn't? What if excellence was something that you strive for? One of the things that I do in my world is I change words. Aurea, do you remember a time in life when you were supposed to have it all? Remember what all was way back when? All was like 2.5 kids.
Right. Yeah, the picket fence.
Right. House in the suburbs. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't have any of that. And I remember feeling really bad. Well, one day I decided to flip all on its head. And rather than ALL, I went ALL. And I decided that ALL stood for a loving life. Bingo. You know what? I got that. And then I went a little deeper and I said, I hate this thing called diet. I've always been like a little overweight, and diet is about calories, starvation, deprivation.
And it has the word die in it.
Well, bullshit. I just turned it on its head. DIET. Decisions I eat today.
Ooh, that's good.
I can do that. Yeah. And I lived by that for almost 30 years. Then one of them was sexy. My daughter got mad. She's like, Mom, why do you call everything sexy? And I'm like, because I don't define it the way you do. SEXY is seeing excellence in yourself.
Another good one.
You are sexy. Boom. Well, I'll give you one more.
Okay.
As a mom, okay, here's one of the biggest problems of being a mom. You're required to do everything. You have to be the disciplinarian. You have to go to school. You have to go to work. And if you do it wrong, you're always guilty. Well, but I'm at work and where's my kid? Who's going to pick them up? Or I'm with my kid. Who's going to take care of my report? That didn't work for me. So I had to change the word mom because I couldn't wait to be mom. I was 42 years old when I finally got to say that. And then it was like, Mom, can you wipe my butt? Mom, can I have a credit card? Mom, where's the keys? Like, Mom. Like, wait, stop. MOM stands for Moments of Memories. If you think about your mom, you can only remember a handful of moments. There's an overall impression. Do you remember the one time 30 years ago when she didn't make you the right kind of birthday cake? Or that you fought over the pair of shoes you're going to wear to church? You don't. It was a big deal at the moment. But I will remember that one of the things I set out to do with my kids was to carve memories. If you ask McKenna about a baked potato, She will tell you she was 8 years old in London, right outside the theater. We went out to see the West End, and she and I had the most amazing baked potato we have ever had. That's a memory. That doesn't get taken away. Same thing about food. We were in France, and we had the best hamburger. We'd had an experience.
I need to go out to eat with you. Wait a minute.
I know, right?
France.
We also went to the Great Wall of China.
Of course.
And we talk about, it was not just the Great Wall. We talk about the memory that we remember because people took pictures of her little face. She had a very round, white, blonde face, and everyone wanted to take her picture. By the way, memories all seem to be made when you're on vacation as well. There's something about that. I can remember a lot of them. But those are the things that we remember. So the time that I didn't make the school play might not have been quite as traumatic if you don't make it traumatic and you just go, because the kid won't remember it.
Right.
And so it's really important. So going, all right, we're going to mark these moments, and those are the ones we're going to hang our hat on, because the end of your life, just a handful of moments is all you get.
It's so right on. And this is a perfect ending to this show. I could talk to you forever. Love to have you back. And I normally ask people, and I've already heard your heart on legacy. I love to ask all my guests about what their legacy is. And you've already so explained that your legacy is service. And I know how big your heart is and how you want to make an impact on as many as you can. I'm going to ask you a little different question, because you're talking about these memories. And I lived this way too, because once I lost my mom to cancer when she was 59, I had cancer, and my dad was murdered when I was 15. So I've lived my life with appreciating today. And when my daughters want to have lunch with me, it's like, yeah, I'll move everything to have that memory of lunch, because I know they won't remember how much money I made today, but they'll remember that lunch moment or something else. So I'm with you on that page. I'd like to ask you a question because it's relevant to what's on my mind today. And this is the Barbie movie, because you and I, we love TV and Oscars, and we watch the Grammys, we watch the Oscars, and movies move me just like they do you. They're very inspirational to me. I love a good movie that really makes a difference, has a voice, maybe impacts. And I love it. People always say, oh, I read the book, it was better. I love to watch the movie because using all my senses really makes that impact. And the Barbie movie, from being this girl power movie of what you just said about being a mom and doing this and doing that, reminds me of that monologue that America Ferrera did, and I think is so impactful. All the things that women have to be. So tell us, as we're closing up, what is your thought on the movies, on the Barbie movie? Did it impact you? What say you about where we are now as women and moms, and how this movie, did it make an impact? Do you think it helped? What are your thoughts on it? Give us your little opinion in the close up.
It's funny. You picked a really tough one for me. I watched the movie streaming and I couldn't finish it. I didn't appreciate what the men in that movie were doing. I didn't appreciate I got very confused by it. It was not my favorite film. America Ferrera's speech is classic. I love that. I love how well they've done with it, but I was expecting a different movie. I was not going to Barbie for a massive political statement. And I've been a little tired lately of I have my own views on things. I don't want things shoved down my throat.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little confused by the movie personally. And that may not be a popular opinion. I didn't finish it, and I apologize. Don't
apologize. Talk to us.
I guess if you're in a theater, you can't leave, but I didn't do that. I did it streaming, and my husband and I both sat there and I'm like, I'm not quite sure what I'm watching here and why. It just shattered things that I'm not interested in shattering. And it's maybe good for people who haven't created their own opinions about certain things. I'm wildly opinionated. I think I came out that way. And I believe in a world of equality for all of us. I don't need to be told that, no matter what size, shape, color. And I've taken that to the extreme, and maybe it's because of how I live my life. But I have a student who's 3'2" tall. 3'2" tall. That's about mid-thigh for most of us. That's her perspective on life. Her name is Candy Lin, and she's Chinese. And she was thrown away because her dad thought there was something massively wrong with her. She was born as a dwarf or a midget. She's more midget. She's proportional, very fit. She teaches Zumba. And when I met her in one of my trainings, she hated little people. Why is everyone always looking at me? And I got her to understand, and it was so profound to get to do this, that most of us want to be noticed in life, and none of us are. My ex was 6'6", so height has something to do with a physical abnormality allows you to be noticed. Maybe not for what you want to be noticed, but you become memorable. I've never forgotten Candy. I had another woman in my training who had a tumor on half of her face. She has a thing called NF, which is massive tumors around your body. How come you've never heard of this? You know why? People of NF don't leave the house. People point and stare and make fun of them. And I got her, this is crazy, to model for her charity. Because self-esteem, I've been hurt enough. And I look just fine on the outside, but I've got to tell you, I've had enough physical abnormality, whatever it was, that I've tweaked or changed. And to be able to, I just wish that our world was not quite so harsh on all of us. But you know, it's a funny thing because as humans, I have a little, I don't have the perfect eyesight. So I see things that are different. If they all look the same, I don't really notice something. Like if I'm reading, I can see the mistake or I can see the bigger word. That's why I like to capitalize certain letters.
Me too.
And so we tend to look for the difference.
Mm-hmm. Uniqueness.
Well, yes and no. See, here's the problem with always looking for the difference. It's nice to notice it, but when you continually drive home that we are different. So think about this. As the Super Bowl is happening, you have two rival teams who hate each other because I'm on one team and you're on another. Guys, it's make believe. It's a football game. But oh no, I'm Ohio State and I'm San Francisco and we don't, whoa. Or I'm Russia and I'm the US and whoa. We're people. I mean, I'm Ukrainian by birth. I always wanted to go back and visit Kiev and Odessa, which have been bombed off the face of the planet now by people who are in the same area as them and all grew up with some sort of Russian history together, and they're now killing each other. I remember when Serbia and Albania were killing each other. Japan and China are killing. I'm not quite sure why that happens.
Me either.
Why we just don't look and go, wow, Aurea, you are blonde. That's so cool. Tell me about blah, blah, blah. Can't we just love on each other? But we
find the things were the same.
Right.
And all things that are different.
But we don't do that. We like to find the things that are different and harp on them or pick on them or bully people instead of embracing them.
Amen.
So I am so glad that I got bullied and picked on when I was younger because I refuse to look at life the way other people do. I will take a human being for face value. I don't care what's on the outside. I don't care what color your eyes are, your hair, your style, your weight. You're not a good person. It's irrelevant to me what you look like. You're out of here.
Right. Good.
But that's not how we as a populace want to see each other.
Mm-mm.
And I wonder, does a movie like Barbie help us? You know, I love the fact that Barbies come in all different sizes and shapes. The irony, though, is that wasn't really true. Barbie came in one size, and I didn't look like her either.
Me
And
either.
it was a little destructive about what we did. And I'm wondering if a movie like that can change the perspective. I go to movies because I want, you know what I love? I'm a silly girl. I like rom-coms. I like when the guy gets the girl at the end and they had a fun. And I was just watching Goldie Hawn and Mel Gibson do a silly, fun movie. And you can even hear the music at the beginning of the movie. You're like, no one's going to, you know what I just watched? I watched Cary Grant and Sophia Loren in Houseboat.
I love that movie.
Nobody dies in Houseboat. There's a little bit of conflict, but overall, it's adorable. They love each other. It's funny. They fall in the water.
Yes.
What happened to innocence?
Cary Grant.
We've chosen to shatter it. And I'm sad that it's gone away. I loved innocence. I grew up in a very naive time. And my hope for the rest of the world, for all of you, is that you find and this sounds like a Hallmark card, but that you find the beauty in the little things.
Mm-hmm.
You do go outside and you just appreciate, first of all, when you wake up in the morning, you appreciate that you open your eyes. I've been saying that a lot lately because one morning you're going to not wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And that freaks me out a little bit. I got a friend of mine who's actively dying within the next couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
And no, see, but why are you sorry?
I know. It's just,
we say that out of politeness. And I know we say a lot of things. And I think we just want to take stock of and I didn't mean to not say that, but to take stock of celebrating our lives. What does it take for you listening to this right now to say today and at the end of your life to look back and go, I did a good job? It takes playing bigger than you would imagine, taking some risks, loving more than you imagined, and then understanding that your legacy is your kids, is your friends, is your family. You get one generation, and then most of us are gone anyway.
wow. Forbes, perfect last sentence to this segment, to this episode. Absolute perfection, because you are, to me, perfection of a human being. You're caring, you're loving, you're going to live till you take your last breath as big as you possibly can. And you're taking people with you, and your passion for taking women with you is just, we're on that same page, helping us gal pals really make it and being that I like to say that BBF, that woman you can call at 2:00 in the morning and say, I have a body in the trunk. And all you say is, I've got my shovel. Where do you want me? Not, what did you do now, Aurea?
I'm still calling you one night and telling you that and see if you show up.
I will. And not saying, well, who's in the trunk and what did you do? And what? It's just, I got my shovel. Where do you need me? What time?
Now, before we go, I just want to love on this woman for a second because you said some really lovely things about me. You have been an inspiration since the moment I met you. When I walked into that very first event, how organized you were. You literally set the bar. I'd never been in an event like that where people got up and spoke and had the tables and did all that. It was my first time doing that, and you were responsible for that. And you are, by definition, the girlfriend that I wish I had when I was little, because you're not judgmental. You're very kind. You're so ingratiating. And I'm going to start to cry, but you guys should all have a friend like Aurea, who just really does love on people, is a beautiful mom and a beautiful woman and a thriver in a world where some people just tend to give up. And then somebody who makes you feel beautiful. My husband does that. He makes me feel beautiful. You do that when I talk to you. I think it's why I like hanging out with you. You just make me feel special.
And you are. And you do the same for me, Forbes. You know, you've been there and you've had my back many times. So thank you so much for this time. I know you're so busy. You're about to don so many more stages. And I just know that the best is yet to come. Give your family, your beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous husband, gorgeous twins, big hugs for me. And I love to have them back on the show as well, because you are such an amazing, thriving family. Forbes, thank you.
You know, wait, don't forget this April, I have a feature film coming out. We have to do a little fun girl thing about this. It's been a while since I've done a movie.
Yeah.
So we're going to come back to see all those awards behind her. One day I'm going to hold a big Oscar or an Emmy in my hand. And so the last closing thought. I don't know if we get to do this life again, but if you do it right the first time, once is enough.
Amen. I love it. Great way to end the show. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Forbes. Love you so much. Until next time on Get Celebritized, get out there and live your biggest, best life ever. Live your best legacy. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Forbes.